Obviously, it's been an all-consuming story for months. The latest development, the provinces, the latest, now including Ontario, are reopening, relaxing restrictions, which means thousands of Canadians are going back to work. Some are relieved, but many are really nervous because the pandemic is not over. Millions of Canadians, well, they never stopped working throughout this outbreak. Many of them got infected. Many died of COVID, including a nurse in a long-term care home, at least 4 workers at meat plants in Alberta and Quebec, 10 taxi drivers in Ontario, and the list, it goes on. All of these people deemed essential workers, while many of their bosses work from home. So it's got some wondering, are there 2 types of workers here? Some of them better protected than others. The fear and frustration that a lot of people have led to protests and petitions around the world, and some of the biggest have been at Amazon. That's Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos thanking employees at one of his warehouses for working through this pandemic. On social media, another angle is brewing as people become outraged at just how much Bezos has made during this outbreak. Reportedly $30 billion as locked-up people order more and more products from Amazon. And now a study suggests he's set to become the world's first trillionaire. Meanwhile, workers at his warehouses around the world are getting infected with COVID-19, including here in Canada. There are outbreaks in Alberta and Ontario. According to the New York Times, more than 100 warehouse workers have contracted the virus and several have died.
What do we want? A free society!
In the U.S., workers have walked out, calling for the company to provide them with more protection. Christian Smalls led a protest in New York, and a few days later, he was fired. Amazon says he violated its quarantine policies, but officials aren't convinced.
I have ordered the city's Commission on Human Rights to investigate Amazon immediately.
2 other Amazon workers were also fired shortly after they raised concerns. And now, Tim Bray, a senior Amazon VP, has quit in solidarity. In a blog seen by hundreds of thousands, he said the firings are, quote, evidence of a vein of toxicity running through the company culture. CBC spoke to one of those workers.
I was incredibly moved that someone so high up at the company would act with such integrity.
And joining us now from Vancouver, actually from his boat near Vancouver, is Tim Bray, the former VP of Amazon. So, Tim, I mean, this really doesn't happen very often, that someone as senior as you quits in solidarity with the whistleblowers. And I know it's sort of a bigger issue than just that for you. What's the issue here?
Well, it was Amazon I resigned from, but after 41 years in the software and internet business, what I've walked away from, I think, is really the whole big tech sector. I'm pretty sure they're not going to invite me back. Even 5 years ago, the big tech sector was sort of admired, a place that was doing glamorous work and making the world better, and its leaders were sort of hero worshipped, and it's been remarkable. I think there's a lot of disaffection and unhappiness with the way the tech sector works these days. And, I was one of the people back in the day who helped build the internet, so I have to share responsibility for what it's become. I don't think it's as simple as technology is bad or the internet is bad. I think we've got a bit of a toxic interaction between the shape of the 21st century economy and the immense amount of wealth and profit that can be generated by internet businesses. I think we just have too much concentration of wealth and power, and big tech is an extreme example of that. And, Amazon firing whistleblowers was bad enough to make me quit. But let's not kid ourselves. There's not bad things going on around all those centers of wealth and power.
You ran a unit that was basically dealt with knowledge workers. People were well paid, they had good jobs, and the issue now, of course, is what's happening to the workers in the warehouses. It's almost like there's 2 tiers of people. In your blog, when you quit, you wrote that some of these workers are seen as fungible units of pick and pack potential. Expand on that. What did you mean?
Well, to be fair, if you're running an organization with hundreds of thousands of workers, you're going to have to do some arithmetic and have a notion of how much each person can do in order to, do your hiring and staffing. And, it isn't really a specifically Amazon problem. If you're going to be a warehouse worker, there are way worse places to work. And recently, I'm getting the impression that the agriculture sector and food processing is particularly awful. And so, Amazon is by far the best managed organization I've ever worked for. They're always talking about customer obsession. And who can be against, having a wide selection of products and low prices and fast delivery? The problem is there's no countervailing force. This is particularly true in the US because they have very weak labor laws, but our whole economy is focused on efficiency and growth, and the stress and strain on the people at the bottom of the pyramid just doesn't factor enough in that equation. It's not that we need to solve the Amazon problem, we need to solve the 21st century capitalism problem. And if there's something that's going on in the warehouses or the meatpacking plants or the financial sector that as a society we don't like, we need to improve the regulatory framework to stop that behavior happening. Put it another way, we all love the speed and convenience of what Amazon offers. As a society, are we willing to accept the cost? Because it's not free.
Well, and of course now we're learning there's all this buzz online about Jeff Bezos, that apparently during this pandemic that he's made an extra $30 billion while people are locked up at home. And there's a lot of outrage about that because meanwhile, people are getting sick, some are even dying in some of his warehouses. I mean, what's your response to that?
Well, I don't think we have a Jeff Bezos problem. I think we have a 1% problem, or actually a 0.1% against the 99.9%. You know, if you look at the numbers, it's not subtle. Inequality of wealth and income and power has been increasing steadily since the 1970s. Jeff's just an example of that. And I think anger, outrage is a perfectly reasonable reaction to that.
Amazon, of course, has pushed back against the accusations that you've made. Another VP has said that your accusations about the pick and pack units, that is offensive, that they are spending almost $1 billion in terms of trying to protect their workers from COVID. They say they're doing a great job protecting their workers.
Well, I sort of generally believe them. You know, people I respect and trust have convinced me that Amazon is spending literally billions of dollars on making the warehouses safer. And they're a well-run organization. If they turn their attention to that, I suspect they will probably do better than a lot of their competitors. So good on them. Now, if they just stop firing whistleblowers and creating a climate of fear, that would be great.
I just wonder what the solution might be here, because people like Amazon, obviously, because it's easy and it's cheap. And if workers' demands are met, as it sounds like you would like them to be, then things are just going to cost more, aren't they? Won't someone else, just if Amazon makes less money, won't someone else just come along? That's what we've seen over and over.
Well, that's why I said it's not an Amazon problem, it's a politics and economics problem. Obviously, if it's legal to operate in a way that's abusive towards workers, then people are going to be abusive towards workers. I really wish we could talk to the tech giants like I talk to my kids and say, now play nice, but I'm not sure that gets us very far.
I just wonder whether some of these tech giants actually see themselves as above the law. I mean, we saw Elon Musk at Tesla. He threatened to leave California if he couldn't reopen his plant. And a few days ago, he tweeted, Tesla's restarting production against county rules. I'll be on the line with everyone else. If anyone's arrested, I asked that it be me. And the county said, yeah, okay, you can reopen. So it's almost like he thinks, some tech giants think that they're more powerful than the politicians, bigger than the law.
Well, I think they're probably not. That assumes that the politicians develop the political will to address that problem. And, you know, it's not an Elon problem, just like it's not a Jeff problem. It's a concentration of wealth and power problem, and we have the tools to deal with that if we choose them to pick them up as a politician. Now, I'm a big fan of Tesla because I'm an environmentalist, and electrification of transportation is one of the things that can really move the needle in our struggle against the devastation that's going to be coming due to the climate emergency. And so I'm generally a fan of Tesla, but Elon, come on, grow up.
Well, so we've got complaints against Amazon, lots of infections, some deaths, and it's not just Amazon. We've got, in Canada, 4 meat factory workers recently died of COVID-19 in Alberta and Ontario, a grocery store employee in Oshawa, a worker at a Vaughan dairy plant, 8 taxi drivers just in the city of Toronto. Is COVID drawing more attention to workers' rights? I mean, is there any lesson to be learned from this COVID experience?
Well, I noticed the people who are talking about the urgent need to restart the economy aren't themselves offering to go out and work in the warehouses. They're saying, oh, you worker bees, you go back and face COVID and let's see how that works out. So I'm an idealist, but I don't think we're ever going to get to a utopia where everybody has perfect equality, or probably not even that close. And these days we're in a situation, you know, where we have irritating inequality of wealth and power and so on. But with COVID, we're in a situation where you can, in effect, get the death penalty for being poor and disempowered. Right here in Canada. And I don't think it's controversial to say no to that.
So you are not going back to the tech sector?
Well, I love computers and I love the internet. I helped build it. And whatever I end up doing, I'm sure it's going to be around technology because nobody's ever going to pay me to, sing a song or write a poem or do anything like that. So, I'll find something to do. But I suspect I will never again be a full-time employee of a large technology company.
Tim Bray, thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Amazon is scrapping the danger pay it introduced for warehouse workers at the end of this month. We asked Amazon to comment on our interview with Tim Bray, and they sent us a statement that says, we're committed to ensuring a clean and safe workplace. We've invested more than $800 million in safety measures through the first half of the year and $800 million in incremental pay for employees.